All right, tell me when we're ready to roll. Watching that red light. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the City of Westminster Historic District Commission agenda for Wednesday, July 5th. This is a 7 o'clock meeting at City Hall, and I'm going to call us all to order. With our statement of authority, the Westminster Historic District Commission derives its authority from Chapter 164, Article 9 of the City Code, which is authorized by the Maryland Code Annotated Land Use Article, Division 1, Single Jurisdiction Planning and Zoning, Title 8, Historic Preservation. The qualifications of the Westminster Historic District Commission are on file at the City Administration Building at 45 West Main Street, and the file is open to the public. And we're going to start with a roll call. Down to my left.
Josh Ambrose.
Chris Amador.
Krista McMaster's chair. Grace Ann.
Kevin Whiteman.
Mark Debo, the Director of Community Planning and Development.
Melissa Thorne, Economic Development Coordinator.
And a member of the public. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, let's start with some old business. The Historic District Commission Implementation Plan. Pursuit for funding for the inventory of historic buildings for the entire city, including the cultural landscape. I love that title. Melissa and I have been working together on the application to the Maryland Historic Trust. And we're at the sweet spot where we have gone over an RFP that we think is pretty good. However, it does need to be submitted to the Department of Finance. Is that true?
Yes.
It does. But I am doing the fun part, and I want you guys to help me out if you can. I'm beginning to collect up some historic resources that we're going to direct our contractor to make sure they evaluate. And so I've got a pile of show and tell tonight to share with you all. And I'm going to be going to the Historical Society tomorrow and buying a few more that I found I must have lent out to somebody and didn't get back. So tonight I have to share with you Carroll County, Maryland. History from 1837 to 1976. This edition was by Nancy Warner, I think is her name, and it was done for the bicentennial. So it's on all of Carroll County, and if you can find this in a used bookstore somewhere, I recommend you do. We're going to share this with Melissa so she makes sure that they get this as a resource to look at for at least the Maryland Westminster things. I already shared this with you, which was a bicentennial project. We'll make sure this is on the list for the contractors 200 years ago, Memories of Westminster, especially mid-book. They literally go down the road, address by address on Main Street, who lived there, what they did, and what Mary Shellman remembered from her childhood. And so I think it's a pretty cool resource. It's going to take some work. I mean, they're going to actually have to read and chart it as they go along, but this is available. We've already looked over Bob Porterfield's book, and apparently Bob Porterfield's gone, but his widow still lives in the area, and we might be able to talk to her. I mean, certainly we can cite the book. It's a public, self-published book for citing. I doubt that there's any digital copy available, but it might be nice to see if she supports our work here in Westminster. This is a new resource that I just found from the Genealogical Society. And what's super cool about this is called Thrown into Carroll County, Maryland in 1835, Frederick County Commissioner of the Tax Assessment of Real Property. Now, why does that sound at all interesting? That's because we were Frederick County at one time. And in 1835, they have a list of all the city lot holders and what their ground rents were. And I counted them up. There are only 35 ground rents being paid for here in town. And they seem to only belong to 2 people. Elizabeth Sherman, who lived at 206 East Main Street, the Sherman Fisher Shellman house. And the person who bought her house later, Jacob Fisher. I had no idea they had such a corner on the market. They owned all the ground rents in town. Well, at least let's put it this way, they're all we know of, right? And I think that's so cool to know that at least 1835, there were 35 houses that were paying ground rent. There might be some others out there that are freeholders, that is, they don't have a ground rent to pay. But I think this is a cool resource. It also describes the houses. One thing it is missing is the actual address, but I'm sure that exists, they just didn't publish it in this book. So that's a discernible fact. Anyway, this might be interesting for anybody who wants to read through tax assessments in 1835. I went to a talk by Antigone Ladd, and she did a honoring our heritage book, The Greek Families of Westminster, and she pulled together the histories of 10 prominent families in Westminster and put it all together in this here book. And it turns out they were great at owning businesses in the downtown area. And so she's got all the families, where they arrived from, all their names and all their addresses. And Harry's Lunch, you might remember Harry's, that was one of the legacy ones. The City Restaurant at 12 West Main Street was one. The Main Dining at City Restaurant. So there's a number of these buildings that were owned. There's a lot of old business ephemera here. And I just think that these would be really cool, again, to tie in with the addresses. And I do know this is available digitally. So the vendor could pull out the addresses from a digital copy. I also know they don't really have any place to host this yet. And if the family agrees, maybe the city can host it on our little tab as, you know, a public resource that can be, you know, gotten. So I brought these tonight just as a start. If you guys know of any other resources that we can bring to bear, that might be a good thing to do.
Off the top of my head, one week be a major one.
Oh, I already listed that. Yeah, Weeks is the major one. Also just south of Gettysburg, talks about the Civil War in Carroll County. So we should be able to derive addresses and streets that saw court discharge action. But I have to go buy that book because I seem to have lent it out to somebody and I only have the map. I don't have the book anymore. So I have to get that one. There's a Westminster Then and Now that's at the Historical Society. This Greek one, there's a couple of copies that the Historical Society still holds, but it's self-published and there may only be 2 or 3 copies left available. If any of you can think of any other resources, let us know because we can make this as a minimum list of things that our vendors should look through to clean address and history. Any other thoughts? Oh, and then also I sent a map that was created for the exhibits for the Greek families that had all the Greek addresses. And that map was sent through to Melissa already, so she's got that graphic thing. That's pretty cool. We probably should send it to the commission here just for their peruse.
Absolutely, actually, that's really.
Forward it to us. And then also I found a map of Irish Town. So that really does exist. I have yet to find an actual book that backs it up, you know, with families or stories or addresses. I'm going to continue pursuing that with the Historical Society because they created the Irish Town map for an exhibit, I believe. So they might have some more discussion. It turns out our Irish girl lives in Irish Town.
Well, I heard that when I moved there, but there was, like you said, there was no conclusive evidence that it was Irish Town.
But I sent that map already to Melissa. Maybe you could send that out to the commission as well. You just gravitated to it.
And I also have a picture of my street. I think it was taken in 1912, and you can actually see my house on there and the one next to it. But then there's lots of empty spaces. I'll have to bring that in. Yeah, Wendy actually got it for me. It's pretty cool.
So now there's an article I have found on African Americans living in the city of Westminster, but it's a little indescript. Talks a little bit about Union Street and Charles Street. And I think that if we have any context in the city here where we could talk to people, like maybe Union Street Church there.
There's a lot of people who've lived there a long time, or their grandmother lived there, so yeah. That would be, yeah, I could find out some stuff for you.
We'll poke around and see if there's anyone who wants to work with us who can pull together. Because the article I found was I think it was for Carroll County Times in like 2007. And it's very kind of diffuse. It's not like the maps we have, you know, where you can just map it in. So I'm trying to pull these things together, although we won't have any real bids till November. And that's when we would hear about the grants. It's just good to have everything in advance, tell the contractor what we have and what we don't have. And that should help them come up with a better price. So that was my fun show and tell for the evening. Do we have any feedback from anyone where we can keep going? No? Great, well, keep your eyes peeled for local historical resources that may flow into this project. All right. National 250th. There is a little handbook on creating commissions. And I asked Melissa to send it out to everybody. I think you all got that this week, I hope. It just gives some ideas on how to form a commission, how to, you know, kind of get things enthused. I think we're along the pathway of the commission, but it's a professionalized way of telling us more of what to do. We have our meeting coming up in August. True?
1 hour prior to our next meeting, yep.
Yes. And July 19th is the next regional 250th meeting, and it's you just sign up to be on the webinar, basically. And it should have come through with that email. If any of you have the opportunity, please sign up with me, because you know, being the only person who has to show up is a lot of responsibility. If you guys have extra ears, you'll hear things I don't catch. So try and put that on your calendar.
It's like at 2:30, isn't it? Something in the afternoon.
Probably it's a business hour, I'm sure.
Yeah, like 2:30 on a Thursday or something, is it?
Yeah.
It's a late lunch.
Okay. New business. If there's no more old business, we'll move on to new business. All right, so the Westminster Historic District Clock Tower recommendation from Melissa. Are you ready to?
I am, I'm lamenting to Mark, I said I don't have a picture available to flash up on the screen, but everybody at least sitting here has a picture that they can look at. So tonight, we wanted to chat about our historic clock tower. As we all know, it's under renovations right now. There was some discussions with the project manager at the city, John Dick, Public Works Deputy Director, that there is a current section of the clock tower that is in its restoration. The paint has been removed. They believe it was lead-based paint, and the decision of should we paint it? It appears that one of the previous looks of the clock tower did not have paint on it. The most recent version did have paint on it. So we're in my staff report here, we're talking about the photo reference in 1903, and then the more recent photo from 2022. So it's really just looking to you all as a recommendation body. You know, certainly the city will decide what they'll decide for the improvements to that section. But if there's anything you'd like to add on this topic, we'd love to hear it.
And if I could real quick, so I got an update today from John Dick, from the contractor. Initially, his thought was probably not to paint it unless it was more consistent, but now that they stripped the paint off and fixed the brick, they couldn't find actual brick in all cases to match what was originally there, as you can imagine, because of the damage and everything else. So the contractor himself felt that painting it was the more appropriate use, because you're going to notice the difference in the brick style and look. And you can just kind of see the picture in the bottom of that page, how it is clearly different looking, and it's even more so now. So you are going to have a clear distinction of the brick below that band and everything above that, the band and everything above. So his recommendation, he was not looking at painting it. But as the restorationist, he believes that painting it would be the best option now.
So long-term painting is really a big headache on brick. I mean, it peels off in 10 years. It's a continual maintenance issue. And especially if it's not particularly historic. My thought is you're just buying a problem. I mean, I understand that there may be some matching issues.
Mhm.
But in my mind, there's no need to make it look perfectly historic if it's been adequately resolved. And nobody's gonna be that close to it to really see that. You know what I mean? I would suggest that just as a purely practical matter for a long term, last thing you wanna do is paint brick. It just becomes a problem in 10 years, and I'll be gone by then, but still. It's just buying a problem that isn't really a historic thing.
Looks like in 1903 that it was painted, at least the band was white.
It's a simple band, fine, but. I would avoid painting it as much as it was little as possible, just because, now that's my suggestion, just because. You gotta do something with it in 10 years, every 10 years, you gotta deal with it.
Is that the only photo you have, an early photo that you have of this?
Yes, it's the earliest photo we could find.
When was it built?
That I don't know, we actually had that information in the statute book for clock, I just cannot recall. If Commissioner Dayhoff was here, I'm sure he could share it, the story behind the clock tower.
Pictures so the world can see.
Is there any financial impact to the decision?
Well, the scaffolding's up now, as you can imagine, so the decision has to be made now, do we paint or not paint? So once the scaffolding comes down, we're not gonna be up there painting or maintaining that anytime soon.
Look at that's from the contractor.
From the contract standpoint, I don't believe so, that there's I'm not sure how that worked out. It's not an additional cost, that's the question, is that paying it or not paying it, it's not gonna be an additional cost.
All these books in front of me, I'm thinking maybe one of them's got a picture of the clock tower.
Like the one your finger is on?
Yeah, like the one my finger's on the front page, only better.
So as you look at the two photographs. The one on the right, 2022. Totally different brickwork. At column compared to the one to the, unless you are looking at the ones on the left as being painted white, or I was thinking it might be just white brick to resemble marble.
But it isn't, it's paint.
I guess it's the it doesn't look as wide. Maybe the one on the right is 2022 is more of a close-up. But the columns look a bit wider. There also is no above, on the left one, no opening or windows above the column. So to me, maybe the column was all done over.
I think it's been restored a time or two. I would agree. Well, do we have any Any consensus here tonight?
I would defer to you, but does the Historical Society have any information on the clock tower? Or did you guys, you already did research on that?
We did initially when we were looking at the actual work for the clock. Again, I just can't recall I don't know if we
Maybe they have-
received anything from them in particular. We did pull information as to when it was built, when we believe it was built. We did gather some information regarding the clock tower.
Maybe just make it look sympathetic. I mean, I guess, I agree with you. The paint, you have to go up there and paint it. And who knows how many times it's been modified?
Here's a view, but it's really hard to see. It's after the fire that was there.
Oh, St. John's Church.
Well, the fire hall burned down. You heard that story.
Oh, no, I didn't hear that story. Oh,
Yeah, they burnt their own fire hall. Blaze.
Barbecuing or something.
Yeah, well, I forget the story, but there was a livery stable there. And it had a lot of straw and hay, and that catches fire pretty quick. At home, of course, I'll go see why it burned down. I guess the equipment was stuck in the building, so they couldn't help themselves.
Yeah.
All right, and do you have any thoughts, Grace?
I think painting it is a headache. Because especially when you say that with lead-based paint, that paint probably stayed on there for, like, the old paint stayed on forever, new paint doesn't. I can attest, I just painted my front door today. It's not the same paint that it used to be, but I think leaving it as brick is better.
So do we have some position? It sort of sounds, at least three of us say painting is a problem.
I'm going to defer to you on this because you've done this.
Yeah.
A lot, so.
Yeah, I personally, I just wouldn't buy the problem. I would keep it as minimal as possible. And not buy the problem. I mean, every square inch you paint now is gonna have to be done again every 10 years, and it's just long-term more problem and headache. And guys, do you kind of have any further thoughts?
No, I think the paint would be more in line with the way it's been for 100 years, but I agree, I don't think it's a defining feature of the clock tower. I don't think we want to go back up there in 10, 15, any amount of years.
And who knows why they painted it in the first place, if it was just that band. So,
And I don't think, I know there's a note in the notes about the mortar colors and stuff like that. I don't think anyone's gonna be able to tell on the ground. I don't think anyone's gonna care. So.
it's not like a big eyesore or something, but I doubt it.
Minimal. I mean, I guess you have to do the top band because that's clearly in the old photograph. But let the rest of it go.
But isn't that exactly the question at hand, is whether they're gonna paint the top band or not?
I thought it was whether they were gonna
It's a
redo all
top
these.
band, yeah, so everything
It's
in
just the top band.
2022, painting everything what you see there.
Right.
Oh, that's just it, that little.
So it's the band and the dental, so it's repeating, it's just repeating 2022, not the entire, I'm sorry, not the entire
Because you
town band, right, just the band and the dental,
So just
report.
got cursor here.
Gotcha, just tell me.
Yeah. So it's, do we return it to what
So we'll see.
has been seen as being what is right now stripped? Comment, or do we return it to something more closely related to 1903 picture? So that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I would still say minimal, but I wouldn't have a heart attack if we painted it. Let's put it that way. Say minimal.
Looks more minimal with the 1903 photo than it does in the 2022. I would go with that one.
But Cox statement too, that's the other thing.
Yeah, and that's in the notes, it's talked about how the columns used to be painted white to Kevin's point, and the clock face is different and the
Yeah.
railings are entirely different,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of changes already.
A lot of changes. Yeah, again, I would keep it minimal.
I would give a little pop for definition though, if you just do that band above the face.
Yeah, well, they're replacing a lot of the other pieces with PVC and other things that will not need replacing in 10 years, but if they, I think Chris's original point is valid, that if this is painted, it's gonna need maintenance. And so are we, as a city, signing up to do that maintenance? I would say based on the last 15 years I've lived here, I would recommend that we don't.
All right, that's what I thought.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So there's no more new business to be had? Historic District Commission reporting. Let's start with Josh. Anything for us?
No, ma'am.
No, okay. Awesome. Well, I've just been having fun doing research, coming up with more and more information that we can include in our historic inventory. Been great working with Melissa on the RFP. And I look forward to helping her complete the application. So, what else around the bend? All right.
Nothing to report. I did go to Montreal, that was it.
Nothing, thank you.
Do we have anything from staff?
That the mayor and county council in the budget did approve the increase from $1,500 to $3,000 for HTC. Which can certainly go towards the entrance historic district signage and potentially other signage we want to update or redo in downtown.
Happy new fiscal year. Melissa.
Business cards are here.
Oh.
So there's 4 packs. I'll pass them out around after the meeting, but you know, now you can represent Historic District Commission. They do have the planning department, community planning and development information. So folks will be essentially reaching us, but they'll have your name and you know, a better way to talk about our historic district tax credit programs, facade programs, share all the history that you're learning, refreshing from the resources. So yeah, feel free to spread the good news about history here. And one other quick mention, we'll be looking forward to next month. There is an application for an AT&T installation of some replacement antennas that appear to be increasing their height into the sky on the McDaniel water tower. So kind of gathering some information from the engineering company on colors and specific heights. So because is it a Maryland or a federal section 106 review?
So that's federal.
We'll be looking at the historic impact of that project.
So just so you know, we have a very long history of commenting on antennas and holding them to existing height.
Okay,
Just tell that engineer, that guy, to start thinking in those terms.
okay, that's good.
If you don't tell them they have to mitigate their plans, they won't give you a mitigated plan, they'll give you a desired outcome. And that's different than what they can live with. I'll give you an example is the antennas that go along, not Main Street, but the street off Green Street and, like down by the, Center Street, and also Ralph Street has one. Those antennas started out to be umbrella antennas, all sticking out like umbrellas, like an upside down umbrella. And when I told them we just couldn't have that in a historic district, then they redesigned and they have now a box and it's mounted on the telephone pole and you can't even tell that's what it is. It just looks like a brown box on a telephone pole. And so, you know, you have to push people and challenge them to redesign so that it's not obtrusive. And this is the process you do it through, is the 106 discussion.
Okay. I appreciate the heads up.
So I'm in on it. She's on it.
Oh, another, thanks, Mark. So last week we had applied for more money for our facade improvement program. So we're actually asked for $100,000. It's kind of a typical 50. So we had a lot of interest in the program and a lot of support written into the application. So I'm hopeful that they will see the city of Westminster as a more robust commercial corridor instead of kind of we're hopeful. So we appreciate the money we've received in the past. And actually, we've already received one application, so I'll hold on to that until we do have funds, and then we'll bring that here.
Love that fund. That is a great fund. Good, good, good.
That's it for me.
Thank you. All right, and we have one person of the public here. Any comments?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. If there's nothing else, then let's move to adjourn. It's the only time I get to hit the gavel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.